Hello and welcome back to episode 14 of Insurance Isn't Boring. We had a little week in between while we were at conference. We're going to dig into that. Joined as always by the wonderful Elijah Corujo. And we got a lot to talk to you guys about today. Lots happened in the last week. But we always like to start with some street cred. Let's kick it off with that, man. You had a pretty killer week this week.
Decent week. I've put up a fair amount of activity, made almost 400 dials. I've run 11 appointments so far, got a few more this afternoon, and I'm at 8 policies for $10,042 in premium. No declines yet either, so all
brother.
approved.
That's amazing.
Not too shabby. Not mad at it, man.
I think anybody would take that. I was getting my tail kicked this week. I was sick for whatever reason. My leads weren't picking up the phone as much as they normally do. And I got to give a big shout out to FIF Resets. I only wrote $4,000 on my own pen this week. But because I do resets, while I wasn't working, Mark wrote an annuity. And so that brought my APV up to just over 9,000 on the week, which is, hey, if you want to turbocharge your profitability, why are you not doing FIF resets? It's so easy.
It's so easy that many people don't do it, Xander, myself included. We went to conference last week. We were in Knoxville, Tennessee. Xander caught something in the streets of Knoxville when we were traipsing through a karaoke bar late into the evening. Had a great time. But if you don't know what an FIF reset is, real quick, 30 seconds. We specialize in mortgage protection, life insurance, but there's so much you can do with a life and health license. And so we have what we call advanced market products, things like fixed index annuities, IULs, debt-free life, and we have a team of people who that's what they specialize in. They're experts at it. They will handle it. All you do is help the family with the mortgage protection, which is a very simple, easy sale. You ask a couple questions to identify a need. Are they wanting to protect their retirement? Are they wanting to get out of debt, including their mortgage, in 9 years or less? Do they want to set up a form of tax-free retirement? And then you reset it. You book a discovery call with a subject matter expert who closes them. They handle all of the back office, and you do a commission split. And Xander did that this week and is on the receiving end of a fat annuity, which is pretty awesome. And you didn't do any of the work, man, did you?
None of the work. All I did was set the call.
Saved your week, too.
Saved my week.
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, and so especially for a new agent, right? You're calling through some aged leads. You're going to run into people who they've told prior agents that they didn't need mortgage protection. And you can say, awesome. And then refer it out to an expert. And so then, number one, that family's actually getting helped, right? The NASDAQ lost $1 trillion off of it this week alone. People are thinking about, hey, my 401k just took a bit of a hit, right? So it's already top of mind. And then again, I know how to do annuities, but I love how Mark positions them. He's like people magnet. They get on the call and they're like, how do I give you my bank account info? And so I like sending them to him. It just, you said it best, saved my week.
That's pretty phenomenal. And so if you're an agent with Symmetry, get on that. That's what I'm working on this year. Almost half of our company volume last year was advanced market products. And so there is a massive, massive opportunity. All you got to do is ask the questions. That's typically what makes a salesperson great, is the quality of questions they ask. And so what are we digging into today, man? I know we're coming off of conference, a lot of momentum, a lot of excitement, new people probably thinking like, what the heck do I do now? That's kind of how I felt after my first conference. But we got together with our team, a few hundred people down in Tennessee. It was like 2 days of intense training, but also kind of vision casting so people can see what life will look like for them if they stick it out in this industry. We got to do a live episode of our podcast. It was real short. I think it was like 9 or 10 minutes, but super fun week, man. Super fun week. But what are we digging into? What do we want to give the people, man?
Let's dig into conference a little bit because it was it was quite the event, right? They had an entire theater rented out. We were in and out of there. We had some really high octane speakers. The founders talked to us. That was amazing. Um, that actually had a huge impact on me. Like realizing anyone listening to this business has gotten so much easier over time, right? Like Chris Cook and the founders of the company were talking about when they first started. Number one, they were driving to every appointment. And I know you know this, Elijah, because you were here before I was, but they're driving every appointment. They were posting recruiting ads in newspapers and hosting corporate overviews across the United States. So they're flying in and they were talking about, you'd show up to a hotel, meeting room in Chicago and nobody would show up except for the people who were there hosting it. Right. And we do everything virtually now. Like it has gotten so much easier. And so I feel like a lot of people realize like it's also only taken them 15 years to get this business from zero right after the mortgage crisis. And we helped with a lot of mortgage protection to right under $250 million a year in premiums. So everyone has that same opportunity and now it's easier. So you can shorten that time frame. And I think we did want to dig into shortening time frames as well. So I don't know. What was your big takeaway, man?
Dude, I think my big takeaway is anybody can do this, but not everybody will. There was no two people that got on stage or got awarded for something that looked the same, talked the same, came from the same background. There was young people, old people, men, women, like so many different industry experience coming into this. There was people who were there who didn't even have their license yet. And then there's people there who sold their insurance agency to come do this. And so anybody can do this, but not everybody will. And I think that and then my second takeaway is whatever it takes, man. They talk a lot about success here and how it takes way more than people expect, but it's far more worth it than people anticipate too. So just lock it in for the long haul, man. This is not a get rich quick business. If anybody tells you that, they're lying to you. This is what we call a crock pot business in a microwave society. This is a get rich slow business, man. But had a great time. Anytime I'm out of town, it takes a little bit to kind of build that momentum back. If you're in sales, you know what I'm talking about, how when you're off for a couple days or you're off for a week, it can kind of feel like you're starting from ground zero the next week. And so this week was really important to kind of just manufacture that momentum and carry it on. It's not something that you find, it's something that you create. But I think newer agents have a couple hurdles they have to probably overcome before they feel like they have momentum.
4 of them, really, in my experience. And I got to give big kudos to a new teammate of mine, Bailey Paris.
Yeah, shout out to Bailey.
Conference. Yeah, he's absolutely crushing it. There's a lot, and so I hate naming names, but he has just really stood out as, I've brought a lot of people on board, and a lot of them will tell me, I guess, what they think I want to hear. The reality is it doesn't matter until it starts happening. And from day one, he's like, I'm going to be competing with you and Elijah. I'm going to be competing with the best people in the company. And I've heard that before. However, he came to conference. He had got his license like 2 days before that. And he has made over 1,000 phone calls this week. And he's set over 20 appointments, which is really, those are the first 2 hurdles, right? Getting over the fear of the phones and calling people and facing some of that rejection. The phone can weigh a lot when you first start. Like,
dude, this thing when I was brand new weighed like 45 pounds, man. It was on the desk, so hard to pick up. And they say like once you just got to make your first 35 calls, then it gets a lot lighter. But when I came into this business, there's a sales gangster by the name of Kevin Purdy. He's the guy in our company who was the first agent to ever sell $100,000 in annual premium on life insurance in a month on his own pen. And he talks about the fact that when you pick the phone up and you're holding it up to your head, you're rich. When the phone is down, you're broke. And so it's like rich, broke. How many times can you pick that thing up and get after it? Because you can make your learning curve last 12 months. There's some people who are making it last a couple years. And then there's some people who come into this and they overcome their learning curve and these 4 hurdles in their first 90 days. And the difference maker is how many times you picking that thing up, man.
Yeah.
Shout out to Bailey, dude. $1,000 in a week. I have never done that. I probably should. I'd probably make a lot more money if I did, but and it comes back to conference, dude. I don't think Bailey would have done that had he not gone and seen the vision and seen what it took and got the training, got the confidence and the belief. And so, power of events, man. If you're building, get your people to an event, dude.
And it also will help you, like seeing other people catch the same fire that you caught.
Yeah.
It's contagious, and it's just really fun to be around. And I mean, dude, we were up till like, what was it, like 4 a.m. the last night, all
Very
just hanging
memorable
out.
evening. Yeah, we were just hanging out, just the boys.
And that's the other thing that is so beautiful is you know, how many, I know so many people, you know, they don't like going into work because they don't love the people they work with. You get to choose who you work with here, right? Don't hire people you wouldn't want to be around. We weren't hanging out because someone was holding a gun to our head, right? It was because we were having a good time together. And that is how I think you build something that's really lasting. Because, like, dude, I'm looking forward to getting on Zoom with everybody that I like.
I was told early in this business, recruit people that you could see yourself traveling with. I think that's a really good tip. When you travel, there's some people, man, you couldn't pay me enough money to get on a flight with them. And there's other people that I'm like, I can't wait till I see them again. And that's kind of what it felt like when we were hanging out last week. It's been years since I've stayed up that late, but had a great time, dude.
Same.
And then caught a early morning flight 3 hours later.
Had an agent miss his flight.
Yeah, when I got back, bro, I was a vegetable for about 14 hours, and then I got after it. So the first hurdle.
Yeah. Okay, so
if you're taking notes, first hurdle, get over the fear.
Sorry. Somebody keeps calling me. Client.
First hurdle is get over the fear of the phones. What's the second one, man?
Second one is booking the appointments.
That seems so simple, Xander. That seems so simple. Why is that important?
If you don't book them, how are you going to meet with them?
How are you going to make money?
Yeah. And again, Bailey's doing a great job of that. Booked 20 this week. How long did it take you to book 20 appointments in a week?
Dude, probably like 5 months, 6 months maybe. I was playing this business scared, Xander. I was scared. The fear of the phones bled into the fear of everything. I was afraid these people were going to show up because I didn't know what to do. And then when I closed it, I was afraid they were going to cancel. I was afraid they were going to get declined. And so it took me a lot of repetitions to get to the point where I was doing that 15 and 20 plus appointments booked per week. But if you're an insurance agent, it's important to know that, I mean, we're self-employed, we're commission only. I've got a stack of 1099 statements on my desk I have to send to my accountant today.
Same.
And if you don't have appointments in your calendar, you're unemployed. That's a fact. And it's freeing because you're in complete control over that. And so for second hurdle, book appointments. If you're looking for extra credit, I like the idea of having 10 in play. Having 10 people on your calendar in the next 2 days that you're going to be talking to about this, whatever you're trying to sell them. And if you don't, probably should go back to hurdle number 1 and get over the fear and set appointments. But what about hurdle 3, man?
They got to show up, right? So you can book all the appointments in the world, get somebody to say yes, but if they don't show up to that call, we don't have anything. And so making sure you're digging into their why, you know, if they don't have a reason for wanting this, right? We talk about this. I really don't feel like a salesman that much of the time. I'm a master filterer, right? I'm filtering out the people who want this from the people who don't. So if they can't tell you that why, don't just move on. They're probably not going to show up. Dig into that a little bit. Is there someone else in the home with you? Like, who were you looking to protect with this? Who would the house go to? And then, you know, I like to have them write everything down, and then I beat them over the head with the time. I say it, you want to say it an uncomfortable amount of times, like 5 to 6 times. If you, Mark taught me this one, it's like, hey, Elijah, my brain has turned to mashed potatoes today. What time did we say again? Right, that gets a little laugh, and then they read it back to you, and they write it down with your name and your national producer number. If you have all three of those, the likelihood of them showing up goes up a lot. And then throw in automated, reminders, texts, and emails.
Yeah.
That just makes it even easier.
Dude, and this is something that people struggle with even after you've been here a while, is getting people to show up, especially in a virtual environment. Like back in the day when I was driving, sometimes 4 hours one way to go run appointments, it stung a lot more when I got a no-show. But I was at their house. So if they were home, I was waiting on their porch till they came outside. If they didn't if they didn't answer the door, I'd go run another appointment and then come back an hour later. And so it was a different environment. Nowadays, people just don't have to answer the phone or get on your Zoom call. And this happened to me early this week, man. I blame it on getting rusty. It does not take long to get rust or get rusted. On Monday and Tuesday combined, I want to say I had like 11 or 12 no-shows and reschedules.
Wow.
Between Monday and Tuesday, I had almost 20 appointments booked, and I ran, I think I had like 15 appointments booked, 14 or 15, and I ran 2 of them. And so my show rate was garbage. Called my boy Jake. Jake is the freaking Yoda of sales and symmetry. And he gave me a couple tips on how to lock it down. Very next time I got on the phones, I applied what he taught me, booked another like 15 or 20. And I've sold over 10 grand in the last 2 days. So
look at that.
There might be some truth to what the master says.
What did he tell you? We should share that with the audience.
So his advice was real simple, man. When you do everything that you just said to lock it down, send the text, confirm the time, make sure they put it in their calendar, whatever. But the last thing that he told me to say that I wasn't saying, if I was booking an appointment with you, Xander, I'd say, look, Xander, I got you guys down for tomorrow at 6. I tend to run a pretty tight schedule. And so if somebody forgets about me for some reason, that negatively affects my ability to help the next family. So if I'm booking this time, are you sure that that's going to work for you guys? I was not saying that before. I said it on the very next call and every call after that. And my show, I still had a couple no-shows, but it was a much smaller percentage than what I had on Monday and Tuesday.
Life happens, right? Like, kids get sick, wife has a flat tire, stuff happens. So I understand that, but we want to make sure that it's just emergencies, right? And not just, my favorite TV show is on.
Exactly. Yeah, getting people to show up is half the battle. If you're going to book the appointments, take the extra 30 seconds and make sure that you lock that thing down and get them to show up. Because it can be kind of defeating, man, or deflating to put the dials in, book 15, 20 appointments, and 4 people show up. It's like, dang, I feel like I just wasted my time. And so booking solid appointments is huge. With
that, though, I always encourage people to look at, like, what's the positive in that? Number one, you made the phone calls, and we're still doing 1 and 2, right? So we just got to work on number 3. And that leads us into number 4, which is the last step. It's not super complicated. You just got to close them. You gotta help the family. And so if you can do those 4 things and you can accept that, hey, it's a learning curve. I need to take this step by step by step. You can't jump from A to Z. You got to go through the whole alphabet. It gets real simple. And if you're having issues with one of those, great. You know what it is that you need to work on.
Yep. Closing deals is, honestly, I think it's the easiest of the 4 hurdles. I think the hardest one initially is getting over the fear of the phones because it's like paralysis by analysis. Closing deals is a numbers game, man. The numbers are the numbers are the numbers. And if you book 15 to 20 appointments per week, you should be running 12 to 15 of them. And if you run 12 to 15, you're going to write 6 to 8 policies. And that's literally what my numbers are this week. So far, I'm at 12 sits, 8 sales. And so 2 people didn't buy for me. And I still have a couple more on the calendar. If you can commit to doing that, if you're full-time, part-time people, you don't have to do as much. But for the full-time agents who don't have a backup plan, like this is what we do, you should make that a non-negotiable of running 15, or you won't close as many deals.
You do that, and let's say you had a bad week, like I did.
Yeah.
Well, again, the numbers are the numbers, right? You cannot beat them. And so that just means I'm ready for next week. I got more leads coming in. I think someone was saying it was a spring break in some places this week. So that could have, I don't want to make any excuses, but that easily could have played into things. Awesome. That means next week's going to be absolutely massive.
Yeah.
And we've talked about optimism, next play up mentality. Like if you just keep that, insurance is something that everybody needs and it helps them. This is not box of soaps and shampoos, Jack and the Beanstalk beans, right? This is stuff that people actually need. And so even if you're off your game, man, you're going to run into someone who, the only way you could screw the sale up is if you told them their mom's overweight and ugly, right?
It ain't that hard. It really isn't, man. When you talk about like the mental aspect of this, when I was brand new, dude, if I would have had the Monday and Tuesday that I had this week, having 2 days where I ran 2 appointments, but I booked 15 would have negatively affected my mental space for the next 4 or 5 days. The older version of me would allow that negative outcome of no sales, nobody showed up. I would have brought that negativity into the next appointment. And I think a lot of new people have a hard time managing their energy. And I don't really know how to do that other than deploying optimism, because what you expect is oftentimes what you get, dude. Like if I expect somebody to no-show, or if I expect somebody to give me an objection that I can't overcome, or if I'm expecting them to not be able to afford it, it's oftentimes exactly what happens. But then the opposite is true too. If I expect people to book an appointment with me, it's funny. I texted you guys in the group chat. I sent you a picture of a lead and I was like, I'm going to book this lady and I'm going to close her. Before I ever called her, sure enough, I did. She was one of the clients I helped this week. And I think if you expect the outcome that you want, you have a leg up over somebody who is just emotionally just like rocking back and forth with the waves, depending on what happens that day. And so if you can control how you view the situation, I think how you think about what you do affects how you do what you do. And so if you're expecting it to go to shit, it's probably going to go to shit. And if you expect to have a kick-ass week, you're gonna, as long as you do the work, man. You can't just say I'm gonna have a great week and then you don't do anything.
And how did you, because I was the same way. And I think anyone who says otherwise is either A, has a lot of experience in sales, or just has boundless optimism, which awesome. Keep that.
Yeah, that's hard to find.
But how, because my whole week would be ruined at like 6-8 months ago. If I had, 15 on the books and 4 showed up, I'd be like, this doesn't work, pit of despair. What helped you change your mindset towards that?
I have so much evidence to prove it, bro. Like I have a shelf full of trophies that I've won for personal production. I've got plaques on my wall from carrier trips that I've won. I can look at my bank account, and last week I had 6 or 7 deposits hit. And so, but that doesn't take away from still having a rough day or a rough week. But there's 2 things that I would say. One, it's the evidence and knowing that this is a numbers game. And if you have a bad week or a bad day, just know that the numbers are about to owe you. So like if I was coaching you, Xander, I would say, look, you wrote $4,000 this week, you had an FIF. To me, that's a win. Big win. Could have been better. You probably wanted to write more. Everybody does. But I would say, I mean, with the leads you're taking next week, I would not be surprised one bit, Xander, if you sold like 12 or 15 grand next week, if your show rate was higher and everything. And so knowing that everything can change in a day in this business is what keeps me going. I can't tell you the amount of times, bro, that I got my butt kicked on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And then, excuse me, Maverick. And then on Thursday, Thursday and Friday, I'll sell a whole bunch of policies. And it's like, oh, I don't even remember the name of the person who no-showed me. Right. The second thing, man, is something Jake talked about. If you haven't listened to that podcast, go back and listen to it. But Jake talks about the fact that businesses don't measure themselves on a day or a week or a month. They measure themselves on 90-day or quarterly markers. And so if you're having a rough day, I would encourage you, go look at the last quarter. Go look at your activity. Go look at what you did. And if you're not impressed with that, make a couple changes. But typically when I'm having a rough day and I go look back at my numbers, I'm like, oh, it's just a numbers game. I just got to keep plugging away. This is a law of averages. And a lot of people are so close to hitting that average, and they just choose to stop because they're unhappy with what they didn't get. Does that make sense?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think they at conference I got asked a lot of times, like, what would you recommend to a new agent who's
Dude,
trying to get in? It's really simple. 2 words: do more. Go do more. Go
right.
make more phone calls, go run more applications or more appointments. And if you do those two things, it's a statistical impossibility that you lose here.
Every time I call another agent who's kicking butt and I ask them, because I mean, I still to this day get coaching and counseling, and I'm associating with people who are not even in my agency, but who are selling more than me just to see what they're doing. And one of the cool parts about our company is just the collaborations encouraged. But every time I call Jake, for example, with a question, his answer is typically do more of what's working. Double the amount of leads that you're getting. Don't completely change everything. Double the amount of appointments you're booking, and that'll have a huge impact on the results you're making. And if nothing you're doing is working, you're probably not doing enough. So go back to what Xander just said and do more. That was probably the most common question I got from people at conferences. I'm a new agent. What advice can you give me? And I talked to a lot of people, man, who they're slow playing this. They're throwing $100 at leads every other week. And it's like, they're saying things like, I want to be like you, Elijah. What do I need to do? Well, I'm spending like 10 times that on a weekly basis. So maybe start there or work your way up to it because I'm
Yeah,
doing more.
I have people who are like, I want to run at a 50K month with you. I'm like, I love that. Do we have the first question? Do we have the resources in place? Like, if you don't have the resources, and that doesn't just mean like it's not always you need more resources. You can also be more resourceful, right? So if you've got a bunch of people in your warm market who haven't talked about insurance, maybe set an FIF reset on them. Like, there's a lot of ways you can do it, but the answer is not just like sit there and hope and pray, right? You got to have enough appointments and look at the numbers. You need to be sitting with enough families and having enough presentations to get that number. And it is all numbers, right? Ashley talked about that too,
Yep.
right? If you can take the emotion out of it, this is the easiest business in the world. It is simply a numbers game. But if you're not sitting with people, then you don't have the numbers. And so expecting to sell 50 grand in a month and you're running 3 appointments a week, it's like, there's a disconnect here.
Yep. Yep. You gotta, the thing I love about the numbers, man, is you can't argue with it, man. Math tells a story. And it also, the thing I love about it the most is it helps reveal what you need to work on. When I was calling Jake, one of the other things that he called me out on is I was not filling out an activity report. I've gotten away from that, man. I've gotten comfortable. And so one day early this week, I got up earlier and I dove into a spreadsheet for like an hour and I updated all my numbers from year to date so far. And some of the numbers that I track, man, are how many dollars do I make per dial? What is my show rate percentage? What is my close rate percentage? What amount of business am I writing on which lead type? What is my average premium per sale look like? Stuff like that, that I've gotten away from. That was another thing that he recommended. So if you're new and you're not tracking your numbers, you should, because it's going to be pretty difficult for your mentor to coach you without knowing those numbers.
Yeah. And if you're a part of our agency in particular, one of the Betsy Barr, her husband, he's an Excel wizard, and it makes it real simple. You just put in all your numbers and it spits out, how much you're making per dial, what's your close rate, what's your sit rate, all of that, so that you can hone in on, okay, I'm setting a lot of appointments, but nobody's showing up. Okay, we need to go back to step number 3. Or, hey, everyone's showing up and I'm not closing anything. Cool. Well, then we just need to figure out what's going wrong in the appointments. You can't do that if you're not tracking your numbers, right? Because then we don't know what we got to improve on. You can't fix what you don't measure.
Yep. What you measure, you can manage. We talked about this. I think it was on the producer panel at conference, but if you're not tracking your activity, it can be really difficult to predict the results that you're going to get. And this business is predictable if you're tracking your metrics, and makes it very, very predictable to where you can be in a commission only job like we are, but you're not wondering, am I going to get paid this week? I've never once had that, because I track it and I stick to the system week after
Had a
week.
bad week. I still got paid every single day this week.
Beautiful thing. It is a beautiful thing. And we work in a recession-proof industry, bro. The market is getting freaking wrecked right now. Checked my Roth this morning and it's not looking good.
If anything, I compare the insurance industry to the alcohol industry, right? Because, the economy's doing poorly. People want to drink, right? That's not an opinion. Those are statistics.
It's so true, bro. In COVID, alcohol sales were looking like a crypto chart. It's ridiculous.
And insurance is the same way, right? People start to get unsure about the future. What's the best thing you can get to insure your future than insurance?
Yeah.
And then when, the market's doing great, awesome. People got even more money to spend on it. So recession resistant. Again, our company started in 2009. Who remembers what was going on then? Probably not, in most people's minds, a good time to be doing anything with mortgage in the name. And we do primarily mortgage protection. We do, actually, that's not true anymore. We do a lot of mortgage protection. Everybody starts there. And year over year growth every year since, it's pretty beautiful.
Where can you go, man? Where can you go? So just to recap, 4 hurdles for a new agent that you got to overcome. And we tell you this just so that you know what to expect. We don't want people coming in here and having false expectations of what to get. But the first one is getting over the fear of the phones. I don't know why it is, but people are afraid to make phone calls for some reason. The worst thing that could happen is they tell you no or hang up on you. That's the worst possible thing. Second, once you overcome that, you got to start booking appointments. Because if you're not booking appointments, you're unemployed. And that's not a good place to be. You don't get into the insurance industry to go broke. I don't think anybody does. Once you book appointments, you got to get these people to show up. So work on your tie down. One quick tip, not to get too granular, but when I'm dialing, my show rate is way higher, Xander, if I'm on the phone with them for at least 6 minutes. If you're on the phone longer, it's even better. And then closing deals is the last one. And we do a ton of training on how to get better at sales, better at closing, better at question asking. But doing that day after day, week after week, you're going to have bad days. You're going to have bad weeks, but I guarantee you won't have a bad month, man. You're not going to have a bad month if you follow it day after day. But a lot of people will get emotional about the results they didn't get, and then they stray away from the process that they need to follow in order to get the results. So
100%.
4 hurdles. Simple as that.
4 hurdles. And then one exciting, development out of conference is I think I have finally maybe convinced you to think about growing the Corujo financial group. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I haven't done too much yet. I bought an owner's pack. I don't know how I'm going to fill it yet. I decided to take the small risk of buying an owner's pack, which is basically a batch of 10 discounted tickets, because if you want to build a team, there's only 2 ways to scale your income in the insurance space. One is you sell more, and you can do that. I think that's the harder option. Or you can sell more, sell bigger policies, buy more leads, run more appointments. Anybody can do that. There's people making $500,000 a year selling insurance with no team. Or you can duplicate your efforts and build a sales team. Anybody can do that within Symmetry. Cool part too, if you're an agent with another company, somehow you stumbled across our podcast, glad you did. But when you build an agency with Symmetry, you actually sign an ownership agreement where that business is yours. You can sell it, you can transfer it. If you die, it goes to your family. And the best way to build is by getting butts in seats at an event. And so Xander had a whole bunch of new agents at our conference last week in Knoxville, and we're doing another one. Our national conference is in Denver in August of this year. So we got about 6 months. And I bought a batch of 10 tickets because I'm gonna bring 10 people with me to that one. It's been a while since I brought people to an event, but normally it's me and my wife that go. But we're gonna bring 10 people and see what we can do. The big thing I'm gonna do different this go around is I'm gonna be more choosy with who I hire. That's going to be the name of the game. Because I was working with people they weren't really my tribe, if that makes sense. And so being choosy with who you hire, hiring people that you can see yourself working with and developing a friendship with for the long term is what you want.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah, man.
who wants to come in and work with people they don't like, right? Like that's
Bro.
no fun.
Yeah,
But
that's the
if you like
common.
working with them, I'm in the Zoom room working with like last night. I had a couple of no-shows last night, but the rest of my team was running appointments. So I'm in the Zoom room and they're getting wild objections. I'm typing away. I'm like, here's what I would say. And I was in there till like 8:30 or
Nice.
9. And it's
Because you
fun.
wanted to. You wanted
Right. It's like playing Xbox. It is literally like playing Xbox, but people are making money and it is awesome.
to. I love it. We're going to use this podcast as a recruiting platform too. I mean, we kind of already are. There was I think her name was Georgia, right?
Georgia, right?
Georgia, if you're listening to this, shout out to you. She was with another insurance company, stumbled across our podcast, heard about the conference, bought the plane ticket, showed up, and I think she's going to kick some ass here, but it's already happening, man.
And oh, this was the coolest part. She brought her husband, who I love it because I can relate to this a lot. He was skeptical at first. And
That's why I went to my first conference, bro, because I thought this was too good to be true.
Same. And so I really resonated with his skepticism. I was like, dude, shoot holes in it, please. Because I did the same thing. And so he was asked, I remember the last night, it was the party. He had like a list of questions on his phone.
Nice.
And he was like, okay, so what about this? And what about this? And I answered his questions. And the beautiful thing is kind of similar to selling insurance. I didn't have to do a whole bunch of selling, right? It's a great company. And what we do is really fun. Yeah. And I got a message I got put in a group chat and I got a message. It was either Monday or Tuesday morning. He was like, dude, I'm in. And so he's in the middle of licensing right now, absolutely flying through it. And I couldn't be more excited for the two of them to see what they're going to build here. That's the other thing about conference is they were able to see David and Danelle, Jordan and Jared, all these other power couples who are doing this at a high level as a family, as a couple. And to them, that probably resonated more than, the 25-year-old, actually I'm 26 now, different people resonate with others more. And they could say the same thing that I say, but they're going to hear it differently coming from someone who's in their exact same situation. And so it's hard to put into words what getting to an event will do for you. You just got to trust in the people who are where you're trying to get to, that if they're saying it's important, it's probably important.
Yeah.
And then you'll see after attending, like, okay, I get it now.
Yeah. And I was really skeptical at first too. I was kind of expecting it to be like this rah, 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 get everybody fired up type event and no real practical, hey, this is what you need to do to make over $100,000 in a year with this company. But it's not like that. We're not having people take time away from their family, take time off work, and spend money to get somewhere to go get excited. The purpose of it is training. And it's the value of it is you're going to get months of training and experience condensed in 2 days. And so it's worth the time. I would not still be here, bro, had I not gone to a conference. And I did the math. Since my first event in August of 2018 on my own pen, I've sold it's almost $2 million in annual premium. Over 12 or 1,300 families individually that I have helped.
And that's actually the biggest comment I got. So that's the other cool thing about this business is it doesn't just attract individuals who are coming into it attracts people who already have a great income because they see the scalability and how much the business model makes sense. I had another agent who's a little bit older than I am, been hyper successful in federal sales. And he saw the scalability of this and he was saying to me, he was like, to be honest, man, I've been to a lot of conferences and I get the value of them. I was expecting it to be more of a rah-rah. And I was surprised that in the first couple hours, they have people up there who made 6 figures last year saying, here's how I did it. And then the next day, we're diving even deeper into that. Here's how you work these leads. Here's how you write this much in these days. Here's how you leverage your upline. Here's how you build, like, whatever it is you're wondering about, we had a class on.
Yep.
So it's just beautiful.
It's all about impact, man. Impact. Hey, today's episode is not sponsored by, but we want to plug them. Methylene Blue. Xander, what can you say about methylene blue for the people who don't know why you sometimes have a blue tongue when you get on this podcast?
It is the first artificial drug that was ever created back in the 1800s, if I'm not mistaken. It was used heavily in World War II. It has a variety of uses. There have been studies that it's cured different kinds of cancers, cognitive boost, non-stimulant energy booster. I happen to really like Meraki Medicinal. It's third-party lab tested. Yeah, they're great. It just makes you sharper. It helps with your immune system. There isn't really anything that it doesn't help with. It will make your urine green, just as a heads up. But other than that, it is absolutely incredible. I use it all the time, almost every day, and I can tell when I don't.
It's my favorite thing about it so far. I've only used it for 2 days, but the mental clarity is within like 5 minutes noticeable. It's kind of like if you were to drink a shot of espresso, you just feel like locked in. That's how I feel. So check these guys out. Meraki Medicinal. This is not medical advice, by the way.
No, don't come after us.
Some. I don't know if it's going to cure your cancer, but it might help you focus. Go get you a bottle. Anything else we should leave the people with, man? Last episode we did was like an hour and a half long, so it might be good to keep this one a little shorter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see what happens in the next 6 months. There's so many agents that I'm so excited for. There were some who have been doing this for a little while, had gotten themselves into a bit of a rut, and just this next week, I've seen them. They're so much more comfortable. They have all the confidence in the world. I'm seeing newer agents. They've kind of seen the vision. They're excited to get out there helping families, share this opportunity with more people. And, it just feels like you're a part of something really special, making an impact anywhere and everywhere. And I'm just excited to see how big we can grow this thing.
Me too, bro. Me too. I think life is going to look very different in 6 months when we're in Denver.
I agree.
Appreciate you all joining. Tune in next Friday for episode 15 of Insurance Isn't Boring, and share it with a friend. Let us know what you think.
Leave us a comment, good or bad. We read them all.
See y'all.
Peace.